All right, if you missed Tuesday night's Race Chat Live, you missed the RCL crew talk about getting into the gospel of racing. Listen in.
And what you're kind of bringing here to vision that I'm getting from this is basically, even myself, I've been critical of dirt track drivers and stuff who they don't seem to know how to handle. They want the TV money, but they don't want to be the TV personality, and that's something that's kind of stuck with me. And I haven't really brought it to attention because I didn't know how to express the way that I felt about it. But obviously what you're telling me is, and I see these YouTube channels created amongst these kids and all, I believe even though we've had, and all of us sitting at the table here, we've been raised with TV and television and spotlights and stuff like that. But the one thing I think that I've forgotten about all this is the camera wasn't necessarily on me. And, hey, let me bring this to the table. I am an announcer, all right, and I have announced in front of crowds of 3,000, 5,000 people. There was a moment of pause during one of those races at one point in time, and I remember all of a sudden realizing, like, for the last hour, I've carried this crowd just by talking to them. And the moment that I realized all that, it was very, very overwhelming. And I literally had to get out of the box that I was in. Of course, I'm in a media box, right? I'm in a suite. And it just felt like the room closed in on me. Like, holy crap, Chris, you're literally carrying a crowd through a rain delay, and there's 5,000 people out here who's hanging on to every word that you say because they want nothing more than to be told that the race will continue. But that's not what you're able to tell, right? I mean, put yourself in my shoes. You're not able to make that prediction. You just have to keep the crowd going. And in that moment, I realized, man, whoa. So I go outside. My wife's like, what's wrong? You look like a ghost. What's happened? And I'm like, dude, do you realize I'm talking to 5,000 freaking people? And she was like, yeah, so? You're not the one talking to them. That's why you can
I was just going to say that. She's not the one talking to them.
Right. So what I'm getting to is we're not used to the camera being on us. Up these guys on Flow Racing don't know how to handle the camera being put in their freaking face. You know why? Because it is still new to us. Not to our generation, not to our children, not to the next generation. They have had cell phones, cameras, and all from day one. Mama's been over there with the cell phone. Oh, look at my baby. Oh, look at my baby. Our children are programmed. Holy hell, I got goosebumps because we're in the gospel tonight. Woo! Race fans, Race Chat Live fans, I tell you what, we are in the gospel of racing right now. I tell you what, there's just no way. Man, I tell you, whew. These children, they're born with cameras in their face. No wonder they're able to just act like normal children. And no wonder these older racers just make you want to turn your TV off when Flow Racing's showing them in their pits and they look like they got a thumb up their fucking ass. They don't know how to handle a camera being in their face, and it makes perfect sense. So we are in that generation where everything sucks amongst marketing for these drivers and all, because they really are just trying to grasp the change. All of a sudden within a man's career, he went from this is the way it is to where it is now. But our children, they're programmed already. They feel it. They know they're under the cameras and the spotlights from the time that they arrive under the microscope. That's something that you, me, and Taz, and Craig, and all of us, there's deep down inside of us, we all feel that. And like I said, Craig can probably attest to this. He's played in front of big crowds. There is that moment where you don't want to realize how good things are going because you have one bad night and you'll understand, you know, and the world can turn up on top of you real quick. It's one thing when you're doing a gig for 10, 15 folks. It's another thing when you're doing a gig for 5,000 people and a fight breaks out that could turn into a riot. Okay, and that's a true deal. Like, that's happened several times at the Street Stock Nationals. And you have to have that level head to say, wait a minute, I can't entice this crowd any more than it already is. I've got to pull the reins back and make sure that anything that comes out of my mouth doesn't create more of a fiasco that's already occurred. And I think, that's something that, of course, you have to be in the situation to kind of understand how to handle it. At the same time, that's what I'm saying with this next generation of kids. They've already experienced that. It wasn't a learning process for them. That's why Owen Larson and Cash Boyer and these kids, they're so talented in front of the camera. You're like, oh my God, look at these kids. They're so cute. How do they do that? I couldn't get my kids to say, I like Santa Claus. They wouldn't even tell Santa Claus what they wanted from Christmas. Oh, no. Give me a peppermint.